If you're gonna do something, you might as well do it as quickly and efficiently as possible. I'm sure someone has always said that. For video games, this need is usually met via speedrunning, a hobby where people spend hundreds, if not thousands of hours learning and perfecting every single move they need to make in order to sprint through a game, ignoring as much as they can of the sprawling creation that many devs spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours making. I kid, of course, but personally, speedrunning has never appealed to me. It's hard enough for me to play through most games once, let alone the countless number of times I would need to memorize all the different level layouts, enemy positions, while also optimizing every exact move I make, where exactly you have to be to jump in order to clear this gap, and then you cut out half the level, etc., etc. I think it's incredibly impressive what these players can accomplish. I just know it's not something for me. But then I played Neon White, a game where the singular goal is to speedrun it, to learn and optimize a level, to then complete it as quickly and efficiently as possible. And it was an absolute blast. Let's talk about why. Neon White sets out to gamify speedrunning. Each level you will need to get to the end as fast as possible, but you also have to kill all the enemies in the level. To do this, you have to pick up guns in the form of cards that are littered around the map. But each gun also has a unique traversal ability that you can use at the cost of discarding the card. The levels are laid out in such a way that the natural path through them is not the ideal. Each level has a built-in shortcut that you can leverage to cut down your time. After you get a fast enough time, the game even gives you the option of a visual hint in your future runs to show you where that shortcut is. And I really appreciated that because it takes a lot of the pressure off and makes the game much more approachable to someone like me. If you have no concept of speedrunning or looking for ways to cheat the game, so to speak, the hints and overall layout of the game's levels build you up to actually start noticing and get you into that mindset. I also really appreciate that getting the highest medal in every level is actually fairly doable. It does take some focus and you will make some mistakes here and there, but none of the levels ever had such tight requirements that I felt like I couldn't do it, or that there wasn't at least a little wiggle room for some stumbles as I went through the levels. And I think that's perfect because if you're a real speedrunner, you know, if you really want to dedicate yourself to getting the fastest time on every level, you're still gonna do that. It doesn't matter that you got a medal for it, right? You want the fastest time to have the fastest time. That is your medal. But for the casual people, the requirements for getting the 100% as far as the game is concerned is very doable and very achievable while still being a challenge. Each level has a global leaderboard, and I usually found myself in the 30 to 40,000s, even though I'd be getting the highest medal for that level. So there's still a ton of room for improvement there, and allows players to keep optimizing if you want beyond what the game shows you. The game's movement is fast, as you may expect, but I also found it a little floaty. Jumping especially could be really finicky in some sections. There were many times where I had to reset because I walked off a ledge instead of jumping. While this could be extremely frustrating, and I really never felt like I got the hang of the movement even at the end of the game's almost 100 levels, I never gave up on it because the levels are really short, usually less than a minute or so, and you can reset with just the push of a button. So a single failed run because I floated over a gun card or an enemy that I was trying to jump off of, or because I didn't jump, never got me to the point where I was rage quitting the game. It's fast enough to reset and redo the level and do it correctly. The game's overall design is very clever in how it marries the movement mechanics and weapons. Having weapons be discarded when you use their movement abilities really turns this game into almost a puzzle game, especially when you combine it with the goal of speedrunning the level, which is itself a puzzle to solve. As you go through a level, you'll be thinking, oh, there's a weapon card over there, I could get it, do I really need to get it, will that be too much time, can I get through this level with enough ammo to skip it or movement, can I shoot these demons before I use this movement ability, after, do I have to launch myself with this gun and then use this other gun to shoot, things like that. You're making a lot of those decisions within a level. This dynamic really keeps the game fresh. Every level is really a new experience, a new set of thoughts, a new set of decisions to make. And at the same time, it never gets overwhelming. Sure, there's some complicated levels, but everything that you're given is fairly straightforward, and as you go through the game, because it's laid out so well and how it teaches you all the mechanics, it almost becomes second nature to make some of these decisions. You really start running on instinct, and you can get into a really good flow state until the game really stops that flow state. And this is my biggest problem with the game, that ironically, it really has some extreme pacing issues. This game comes with a fairly substantial story following Neon White, a dead man turned spirit destined for hell, who is instead brought to heaven to help fight off demons that are attacking it. There's a number of Neons here participating. The story revolves around this small gang, White and a few of his friends, who happened to all know each other in real life. Of course, Neon White has lost all of his memories, and that's a lot of what the story is, learning about your past. The game is split into chapters, each usually containing 10 speedrun levels. In each level, you can find gifts that you can then give to the various Neons to build up what the game calls Insight, which is essentially this game's version of the Persona social link. Get enough insight, you'll unlock new dialogues or memories that tell you more about these other characters and Neon White, how they lived together, how they chose to live in death. Now, some of the game's writing has been mocked as cringe, and yes, it can be, but I found it intentional and almost borderline endearing. I think if you go in with this game is a self-aware anime kind of mindset, it's not that bad. Yes, there's of course some rough moments where you might cringe a bit, but the overall story, the overall characters, the arcs they go through is actually pretty decent. The story explores this concept of forgiveness, both of yourself and to others. It's not super deep, but the payoffs work for the most part, and the character arcs, like I said, are pretty engaging. The big issue that the game has is that it naturally will spit you back to the overworld between chapters, and it's tedious, there's no other word for it. You have to distribute the 10 gifts you just collected in that last set of levels, assuming you went and got them all. And it felt like it took essentially 30 minutes to get through all of that, to talk to everybody. There's no voice acting in this part of the game, so you have to read a lot of conversations, and to just kind of dump all of them at once really is jarring. So you go through like 30 minutes of talking, then you go back to the next chapter's missions, and then you have 30 to an hour of speedrunning. Ironically, there's really no story that happens during the missions. There's usually a little dialogue at the start, maybe a little bit in the middle, and then a little bit at the end of a chapter. So it really kills the vibe when you're speedrunning, doing these levels, you're getting into a good flow state, and then you get kicked back to the overworld to spend some time talking to people. And yes, you can skip the narrative part if you want. You don't have to give the gifts to the other Neons, you don't really have to talk to anybody. If you were just blasting through the story, it's really not that long of a pause, but I don't know, I can't do that. The side content fleshes out the story, it informs the characters, it helps you better appreciate everything that's going on, and I do think it's worth doing. I just wish there was a better way to have interspersed it into the game. I don't know, I don't necessarily even know that that would be better. Maybe just fewer chapters with more levels, I don't know. I just always felt like I was really getting into the groove of speedrunning right when I was done speedrunning, if that makes sense. Overall, Neon White is a great game. It gamifies speedrunning and makes me wonder what other hobbies that a developer could gamify next. Maybe making YouTube videos. The game's clever level design teaches you how to speedrun. Shortcuts that blew my mind in the first chapter or two, I was intuitively and naturally taking in later levels. And while I know I'm nowhere near the top of the leaderboard, and that is not something I aspire to, there's still something very satisfying about replaying a level and going from a bronze medal to an ace medal and cutting 5, 10, 15 seconds off a run. It really does feel like you are getting the better of the game's levels, even though those levels are designed that way. For a final rating, I would give the presentation a 4 out of 5, the gameplay a 4.5 out of 5, the story a 3.5 out of 5, with an overall rating of a 4.25 out of 5. For value, I'd say it's worth it. This was a really fun game. Even if you don't think you're a fan of speedrunning, I didn't think I was. I kind of knew what I was getting into when I started playing this game, and really I was nervous I wouldn't like it, but everybody said it was so good, I felt like I had to try it. I'm really glad I did. I would encourage you, if you're feeling similar, take the risk, give it a shot. I think you'll really enjoy it. But now I want to know what you think. What games do you like to speedrun? Let me know in the comments down below. If you liked the video, like the video, maybe subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all with the next video.